welcome to Cruising with LR.
Hi, I'm Lydia Mills, aka LR. I'm your host of Cruising with LR. Cruising with LR is going to have something for everybody, and it'll be happening weekly on Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. The cool thing about my show is that it's going to have 4 categories that are paired with the 4 weeks in a month. Week 1 is sports. Week 2 is influencer.
Romeo, oh Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo?
Week 3 is arts.
Now, scoot down a bit. Alright, just go back to the right.
Week 4 will be reading and writing. For the poetry piece I'm going to be reading today is Dust of Snow by Robert Frost. The way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree, has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of the day I had rude. The reason I did all these categories is so that everybody has something to look forward to on my show. For example, if someone's more interested in the sports than they are in arts, they know to look for week 1's episode, not week 3's. My first episode will air September 5th at 8:30 p.m. and I will have a Facebook group called Cruising with LR that I will be very active on, and I encourage you all to be active on as well. And you guys being active on can include like live streams and posts and anything you want to post on there. I will have a Instagram, which is lindarose_photography07, no caps, and my TikTok is lindarose.k with no tabs. Thank you guys so much, and I can't wait for September 5th.
Hi.
Hello! I'm excited for this one. I was born to do this show, right, MM?
Yes, you were. You absolutely were. And
This is all
you're
the
such
things
a trooper bouncing from one show to another. It's fantastic.
We have Billy Vera. He was live
I
on No
know.
Icing with Rory and Sandy right now, but it's so cool because we want to greet the replay squad. They don't care about that, right? They come in and they just hit rewind and they just watch the whole thing. So I think it's great. You know, we're a big network, so we're going to have more than one live show at a time now. And I'm really happy about that. It's a really
I
good
am
sign of
too.
health,
I'm
right?
excited for it. I am too. I'm all about it. You should have heard me. I was driving when you were
Yeah.
like, "What is that song?" And I'm like, "I put that on the TikTok," and I kept yelling it at my phone
Oh,
because
I'm so
I was
sorry.
driving.
Oh,
I'm like,
I was trying to
"Rock
think of it so
on."
much. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. Yeah, because I
Then you
forgot. I
figured it
thought
out.
it was Sandy that had done it at her page. So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
looking at
no.
her page. I'm not seeing it. And then I'm like, maybe it's on
She
Clubhouse.
did the ad. I added it when I put it up on TikTok, but I was like yelling at my phone, "No, Renee, it's."
We do that. We produce while we're driving, right? This is like the cool thing.
Yeah.
While we're sleeping, while we're driving, okay, while we're
But we're
cooking.
safe. Like we yell at the phone rather than text on it.
We don't do this. No, please. Nobody wants to do that. But here's the thing. So this prison, we're going to be talking about prison reform. We're going to talk about what it's like inside the bars. And then this is something that you're very passionate about. You wanted to talk about redemption. You've been wanting to do that for months now. You're saying,
Yeah.
so that's why this is entitled From Prison to Redemption. But people who haven't been to prison, I think all of us can talk about some kind of a metaphysical prison that we've all found ourselves in, and we all want
Yeah.
redemption. We've all fallen short of what we wanted in our lives. We've all disappointed people.
Agreed.
And why is redemption so important to you, Em? Like, you've been talking about this for a long time.
A few reasons. One, I do have family members that have been touched by whether it be drugs, alcohol, abuse, prison, you name it. I grew, both my parents' families were very dysfunctional. I was blessed. My parents were great, but
Mhm.
um, all that extended family. But the other thing that really touches me right now is we have such a great generation of kids and young adults right now that are really outspoken and using their voices. But there's a large number of those same generations that if you're toxic or you don't do right, they just cut you off. Like, and that's the
Yeah.
end. There's no going back. There's no second chance. There's nothing. And when I think of my life and all of the people who you don't, I didn't have them in my day to day life because they were toxic, but I was always open and I was always reaching out, checking in, I'm here if you decide you want to change things, that sort of thing. And when I think of all the people I could have lost who are absolutely fantastic, well deserving, hardworking, honest, giving back to communities, whether it be
Yeah.
friends or family, I think it's sad to think that they are missing out on that, right? Because
Hmm.
they do just cut the ties. And in my family I have that myself. That's somebody who cut ties
Hmm.
and never came back. And it's been really hard to watch the immediate family go through that. So and I mean, you're about to meet two fantastic people who most people have seen before on our shows. Um, and they're amazing people and they're going to make some amazing changes for other people's lives, for their
Right.
communities. They're already doing it, right?
Hmm.
So that's why. And I think we all need to have a little bit of a second chance. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying you keep
Hmm.
people in your life who are toxic. Don't do that. That's not what I mean. I just mean keep that door open in your heart so that if they can improve and do better, you can be there and be a part of that. Because it's such a glorious and just amazing thing to be a part of that transformation and then to see them be all they could be. And it doesn't erase the past. It's not what we're saying. It's, but without that past, they may not be making the changes they are now. So we all have to learn from our mistakes and do better
Yeah.
and be open to let other people do that as well. And I
Exactly. And
try
I'm
to do that in my life, but I mean, it's not always easy, but
I try to do that too, and I've been on the other end where I've asked somebody for a second chance or a third chance. And one of the cool things that I've found in my life, and again, we're not talking about, toxic situations or criminal situations or something that's going to really, but if you're having somebody who's falling short in your life or they're disappointing you, sometimes those challenges that you go through together in a relationship you can come out stronger on the other end sometimes. So you don't
yeah.
want to waste those opportunities, and only you know what is a real opportunity and what is toxic for you. But I would encourage people, and I have been encouraging people, if this is somebody you've been through a lot together and they're falling on hard times or they're acting a little bit different, and you love them and you want to keep going, sometimes you can find that you learn through the challenges. I know that Julian and Lydia are both going to talk about that too, what they learn on the other side of these challenges.
And
And
maybe it's because we're a little older too, so we have that wisdom and
that's, yeah,
we're seeing the other side of it now. We've come through the darkness with a lot of people and now we're seeing the other side. And it's just so
exactly.
glorious. And we don't want the younger generation to miss out on that.
It's
But
very true. Yeah.
it is what it is. I mean, I hope we can all have a second. I hope that people give me a second chance when I mess up. I'm
That's
the
the
first one
thing.
to tell people, correct me if
Right.
I've done anything. And the other things, our politics are so divided. I don't want to make this political,
Hmm.
but we're so divided in our country and in our world right now. And that's the goal for a lot of people in power. Is because with division comes less strength, right? If we're united, we're stronger.
Absolutely.
Um, and it's just hard to watch the division and the dividing and the cutting off because if we just cut somebody off who doesn't agree with us or is doing something that's wrong and never ever have that even just a crack, you don't even have to let the light in if you want, but you can have a crack in that door,
Hmm.
so eventually if things change you're open to trying, right? And
Yeah.
we need to be able to change hearts and minds to make changes in the world. If we're losing votes for important things, we need to be able to change somebody's heart and mind and circumstances in order to make the changes for the world that we want to see, the goodness and the kindness. And to just cut people off is just not. And again, I'm not talking about abusive or
Hmm.
really toxic situations. I have some amazing friends and family who are extremely toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And I did shut the door, but I never shut it tight. I always in my heart
Yeah.
said,
Mm-hmm.
if you need something and I can help and you're in a good place, I'm here. But it
Mm-hmm.
always had that you need to be in a good place or moving towards that good place, right? And
Absolutely.
I can't imagine my life without those. I can't imagine never having met Julian. I mean, he makes
Right.
me smile every day. I can't imagine not meeting Lydia. Imagine if we just locked him up and threw away the key. What a
Right.
loss to communities
And
and the
also, and here's the thing too. I mean, there's a statistic that the average American commits 7 felonies a day. We have so many different laws and conflicts of laws. Okay. So I'm not trying to minimize somebody who does something that injures other people, but genuinely, most Americans have crossed into illegal territory, whether they knew it or not. And for whatever reason, the DA is not going to prosecute every single person. We don't even have the money to do that. We don't have the infrastructure to do that. But I just want to say one thing that I always would ask myself when I was doing death row work was I would always say, what if my entire identity was based on the worst thing I had ever done in my entire life? And what if every single day that's all anybody could see around me? And I thought, oh my gosh, because maybe I hadn't done their specific bad act, but
right.
I've had my moments. Okay. So it's like this hierarchy of bad acts. And it's like, well, I've done some pretty shitty things in my life, but I wasn't caught, or like I was able to brush it under the rug, or people just were lenient with me. But imagine your entire life, your entire identity, is on paper, and everything is people like, you did this. And it might
Yeah,
have been
that's what
something
you
that
know
you did
the rest of
in
eternity.
right. And but
Scarlet
yet
letter.
everyone else doesn't have to deal with that onus. Not
You're walking
everybody.
around with that scarlet letter.
Right. Like imagine that the worst things we've ever done in our lives, we all have to wear that. Just imagine for a second. So
I
we
can't
got to
imagine.
be, we
Can't
have to
imagine.
learn how to be compassionate and to learn from people who have been through this type of stuff.
Yeah. And the other side of that is there are people who are toxic in my life. Like I said, that I now have amazing relationships and love seeing how great they're doing and they're blossoming and they're being a part of their community and they're an amazing citizen and friend and family and everything they can be. They're doing their best. They're trying so hard. But I also have people that were toxic that I have not let back in because they're still living that same life. So we're not
Right.
saying
Yeah.
you give people and quickly and move on and life's hunky dory again. There has to be change and I can't think of what the word I want is, but
Well, they have
before
to be willing to meet, they have to be willing to have that change and to
amends,
do,
they got to
yeah,
make
to make
amends.
amends. And if you have a relationship, you are relating to the other person, you're having to consider the other person. So if you're living a life that is constantly, you know, injuring that other person, that injures you too. It's not like it's pleasant for you to do that. So it's actually healthier for you guys to, and you don't have to think of it like a long-term thing. There are a lot of times where you have to boot someone and say, hey, just get away from me for a little while. It might be a little while and maybe you guys can come back together. Sometimes a little estrangement in the moment can actually restart that motivation to wanting to be together again. So
Yeah.
don't give up hope, if you really love somebody,
Let's run the video and then bring them up because they're the ones with all the story to tell.
they got all the stories
We
here.
could
Yes. And that
Totally, me
made
and
the,
Renee, we could just sit here and talk about it all day, but I
oh,
am
we
big on
absolutely could.
redemption and second chances. Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, here we go.
Woke up one day and stopped making excuses. I woke up one day and stopped playing the blame game. I woke up one day and looked at the man in the mirror and was like, yo, bro, what are you doing? Wake up. It's showtime. Let's go.
I got from big and tall. Yeah, because I'm a big and tall guy. The shirt, same place.
Okay.
The pants, same place. The shoes, same place. One more, hold up. The same place.
Celebrated my 21st year, my 17th year of my sobriety.
Amazing.
And I also was awarded a visionary award for being, Boston's top motivational speaker, doing things in and outside of the community.
Okay, so January 2013, I was in a drinking and driving accident. I wrecked. My friend was in the car with me, and she passed away. I was in county. I got also hurt. I went to the hospital and then I went to jail. I sat in jail for a few months. The DA gave the family a choice to push my charge, and I got pushed to second-degree murder. I don't have a record, but they gave me 120 to 160 months in prison.
She was never prepared for half of what she went through, but she always got through it. She always will. Who is she? She is you.
My friend was very important to me and my family, so losing her is huge. And me bringing awareness to everything is, I'm trying to make it up to her, and I want to make her proud. If you want better, you do better.
When I was caught, I had 24 felony indictments, and I had no money. I was poor, and everyone knows when you have a public defender, you have to do what they tell you. They're not willing to work for you. And my plea was for 70 to 93 months for trafficking opium or heroin. Whenever I did come home, I was searching for reentry services, and everybody was shut down because of COVID. Except for this one nonprofit called Freedom Fighting Missionaries. He was brand new. So later on, after my sentence, I had decided to pursue Pearson. I decided that I was going to go to school to be able to help people. So here I am now, 3 years later, working for Freedom Fighting Missionaries, and I actually get to go back inside of the prison that I was released from and take those ladies a message of hope. We do recover, we can change, and we can be productive. And just continue to spread hope. Hope dealer.
I love that. Hope dealer. Yeah. So let's bring them up. Lydia Mills and Julian Juice Miller. Hey, guys.
Yeah, let me just say real
What's
quick.
up?
Ashley wasn't able to make it. She isn't feeling great. So we'll be bringing Ashley back on another day. But get better.
Yes. Shout out to Ashley. We love you.
Go, Ashley.
Shout out to Ash.
Okay. Hi, guys. Welcome.
Hey.
What's
I'm so
up?
happy to have you back. Both of you. And together.
I'm happy to be back too. Thank you for having me back on, y'all.
Before we get right into it, Lydia, can you just tell us a little bit about the mission that Ashley does, just so people will be aware, and then we'll let her talk about it when she comes on.
Of course, yeah. Actually, I have been starting to work with Ashley now. She works for Freedom Fighting Missionaries. And she's got in touch with me, and she's like, hey, if you have some stories to tell, tell them to me, and we're going to put them out there. I said, I got 10 years worth of stories for you. And I have written 2 things from Freedom Fighting Missionaries. So they're a re-entry program. She goes into Swananoa, and she talks to the girls there. She does like self-care classes with the ladies there. She goes into the ECHO program, where it's a really, really hard place to get into, but she's all about working with re-entry programs when you're being released from prison or getting them ready to be released.
Yeah, we had talked a little bit about that, how when you got out, there wasn't a lot of, and it's odd because when we had our conversation with the dad bod veteran, it was the same conversation about leaving the military.
Right.
Like they could be deployed 5 times and then they leave, and it's like, bye.
It's hard because you have to acclimate to a
transition.
totally different environment. And Julian, I saw you had a lot of reaction when Lydia was talking. Do you want to talk a little? Do you want to react to what she was saying?
Nah, it was just like what Ash is doing. Like even though we just met, like what it was like 4 days ago or something like that. About 4 or 5 days ago, we just met through social media, and she was already putting in that work to go into the jails, and she brought her peoples with her. So like I just totally agree with what she's doing, what you guys are doing, man. It's awesome, man. Like I would love to be a part of that with y'all, like take the state to state,
Yeah, I know Ashley had talked to you, Julian, about bringing you along to one of her prison.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm excited for that. We'll have to have you guys come on and tell us about it if you get to make it down there and do that.
Of course.
The dream team.
Yeah. Awesome. I would just want to thank y'all for just, giving me this platform, for us to, bring
I don't
awareness
think
to what's
Julian
going on.
understands, Renee, how much I talk about him making me smile day to day.
No,
I
you're a
really,
legend. We talk about you. MM is always talking about you, but I hear other people talking about you. Good gossip, we call it.
Yeah,
So you're a big.
that's why my ears be ringing all the time, huh?
yeah.
Right. And now here's the real question is that both of you went through trauma, right? You're in prison. To me, that sounds like trauma. You're having to totally readjust. You're not allowed to be around your family. You can't hug the people you love. And then you emerge on the other side, these powerful voices of positivity, joy. Where does that come from? And I don't know who wants to answer first.
Go ahead, ladies first.
Okay. Having a support system on the outside is like was very important and my key to the success that I'm doing now. Like everything that I'm sitting back and I have the opportunity to go at my own pace. I'm not rushed. I'm at my mom's house and she's not rushing me to do anything. So I can actually sit here and think how grateful I am, how I have it right now. Like I'm so grateful for the little things that I have now. And it makes me think about all the people that I left in there that are still living in the hell. And I want to help them.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Megan in the audience said she loves it. How can she get involved with y'all?
Just message me. Yes.
Okay. All right,
Yeah,
Megan.
and Lydia, can you tell us a little bit about what your hopes are? I know you have some goals as far as motivational speaking and talking to different places. What exactly is the message and what type of places are you hoping to eventually be involved with?
Right now, working with a reentry program would be, a great job for me to do, a great side thing for me to do. I'm going to go into the prisons and help those ladies to give them advice and give them keys, little things that I picked up along the way that help me. And the biggest thing at the very end, when I am on parole right now, but when I get off parole, the big thing is to go into colleges or high schools, or I even heard middle schools nowadays, and go talk to them about the consequences of drinking and driving. That's one really big thing that I want to accomplish, but when I get off parole.
I think that's fantastic. We've had this conversation. I really think you could make a huge difference for people because you hear the stories, but until you're like face to face with somebody who's lived those consequences, that's a lot. That's very impactful. And I think that would make a huge difference with students. And I mean, I taught in junior high and high school, and I for a little while younger, but mostly older. And I know that I could talk to them blue in the face, but if they can't see the consequences, like somebody paid, I'm just talking to the wall. Because they're young and they need that. They need to. Who didn't? Who didn't hear once in their life? Oh, if all your friends jump off the bridge, are you gonna like? That's just teenage mentality. So I think it's going to be great. I think you're going to be really good at it. And I mean, like you said, it's not going to change the past, but maybe the past is going to change you, and that will change the future for other people. And that's what more can we give in life or hope for in life than that?
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
it's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely want to pay, respect to my victim. She was my friend. So I'm trying to take a negative situation and turn it into a positive. I want to make her look down on me and be proud of me, that I am doing something about this, not just sitting back, oh, it's done and over with, it's in the past, and just forget about it. I'll never forget about it.
Right.
I wake up every day and I think about it.
I can't even imagine what that would be like. The other thing I really appreciate about both of you, because yes, I'm big on redemption and second chances, but I'm also big on amends and being honest with ourselves and learning from our experience, not just looking for somebody or something else to blame. And you both take ownership of what happened. And you both are like, I took my hits because I deserved them, and now I'm going to do better, and I'm going to make this world better so it doesn't happen to someone else. And that's so commendable. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, I like for me, man, this is the thing. Like, I feel as though, you know, we all came in this world, we all got a purpose in life. And I feel as though my purpose is to, you know, learn, you know, to give to change people's lives, to bring joy into people's life. You know what I'm saying? So the things that I went through, you know, I don't take it back because it made me who I am today, right? And those roads that I went down, now that I'm in recovery, I can adapt to other people that have been down the same roads I've been down, right? We can relate, right? So we can, you know, so my message, you know, will be a little stronger to them. Whereas though somebody professional, you know, professional person dressed up, suit, tie, you know, whatever, they ain't never had the experience that person had, and they can't relate to them like they can relate with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we know. You shop at the Big and Tall. We saw the video.
But it's so important, man, for us to share our story. You know, it's important because you never know what the next person's going through, right? And by sharing your story, it can be life changing to them. You know,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Renee, you worked in the prison system. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you feel about the release and how there's not a lot there? Did you have experience with that?
So I started a nonprofit when I was supporting death row prisoners, and you know, I started with innocent people who had innocence cases, and then I sort of just ended up, you know, you meet people, and I saw it as a human rights concern, you know, and a constitutional violation. From there, I went into the women's jail. I went into prisons who had, you know, without, you know, with population instead of death row places. So I sort of expanded over time, and I found it really fascinating because my interest, again, was a human rights concern, because I'm very interested in being an activist against anything that would trample over somebody's human rights. There are a lot of concerns about the prison system and how the prisons are operated in this country, many of them for profit, human rights violations there. I know Lydia talked a little bit about like no AC, you know, imagine this type of like how hot it is. You're not having air conditioning, even these little things, the food quality, isolation. You know, sometimes there are situations where they put people in the hole, where they're isolating people, and in international law, that's considered actually a violation of human rights. So some of these things that we're talking about, you know, maybe they don't seem like a lot if you're not in prison, but if you imagine all of your liberties just slowly being taken away, and then your comfort being taken away, and then you're not able to be with your loved ones. In a lot of cases, you're not able to embrace your loved ones. You're not able to, you know, have marital relations. That's a huge deal. I mean, that's a huge deal. I don't know if
and of course it's glamorized on television and in entertainment, and people think you're living high up the, you know,
it's
and they're kicking back with your HBO every night.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and I'm curious about even the little things that are taken away from you. I mean, if I have to stand in line at the post office for longer than 5 minutes, I'm getting ornery, I'm getting irritable. You know, if my AC goes out and it's hot out, you know, 30 minutes in, I'm like really upset. It exacerbates my migraines. It makes me feel ill.
Yeah.
So these are things, you put all this together. And then imagine if you're pregnant, imagine if you're elderly, imagine if you have a pre-existing. So Julian and Lydia, talk us a little bit through those conditions that I think a lot of us wouldn't even think of as being punishments, but it's almost like death by 1,000 paper cuts at that point, correct? How are you getting through that on a day-to-day basis?
Julian, you going this time?
Yeah. It's easy for me to adapt in any, you know, environment that I put myself in, right? But as far as, you know, like being like your freedom being taken away from you, like your cell, like it's, you know, they could just come in your cell and just violate you and just rip up everything, and you know that's you know, they got a suspicious of something, and they just come and just tear everything up in your cell, right? And you just gotta accept it, you know. I remember I was on Rikers Island, and they came through like 5 a.m. And when I say they came through, it was like they call them the Turtles, right? And it's like a little SWAT team. They come and just tear your whole dorm up. Mm-hmm. But the degrading part about it was they would strip you butt naked, and you have to stand at least 2 inches away from the person in front of you. You know, like you then it's chest to back. You know, it's naked. You know what I'm saying? So that's the kind of that right there is that things like that. Standing up for count and like just the little things, you know what I'm saying? That takes away your freedom. That takes away,
I think people, when we talked about glamorizing, but also a lot of younger people that I've spoken to on this subject, both sides, right? So like you have the kid that grows up in what's considered a normal, healthy, middle-class household. And then you have somebody who's grown up pretty much on the streets with a dysfunctional home. And they both end up in prison, and people just expect them to both come out with this enlightened, like, how does the kid on the streets has nothing to look forward? There's nothing to look forward to. And now you're humiliating them. And all they have when they leave is now street cred. They still don't have a family. They still don't have an education. They still don't have any means to do better. And I think as a society, we can do better.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
We can do better.
They say prison is for rehabilitation, and the whole 10 years, it's nothing but to break you down even more.
Well, that concerns me because you're dealing with a demographic that would be more prone to having psychological issues or trauma, right? You're dealing with a lot of people who had been abused in their lives or maybe didn't have the same advantages. They're already coming in vulnerable. That's a vulnerable population to me. Why, unlike in Europe, there are other countries that take a different tact and they say this is a vulnerable population. We want them to be closer to their families. We want them to be closer to their friends. We want them to be, have spiritual and financial opportunities. That seems to be a much more practical and compassionate approach as opposed to taking someone who's already vulnerable, already probably having the worst time of their entire lives, and then you're adding insult to injury. What are you accomplishing at that point?
Yeah, and our system in general is a mess. We know this. From what leads to crime, to the arrest, to the jail, to the court system, to prison, and then release, right? It's a mess all the way through. We know this. Right. We're not learning from it. We have people sitting in life sentences that were dealing in marijuana or crimes associated with it, and now it's legal and they're still in prison. It just makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
I have been through that myself. Yeah, I've been through that myself. Like, I know people that are in there that's got 18 to 23 years for just drugs, and yet I had second-degree murder, and I only got 10 to 13. We all got together, and we were like, this is kind of backwards. I was charged with a Class B felony, and these people are just charged with drugs, and you're giving them 18 to 23 years?
Yeah. Well, and Julian, another factor on what we're talking about is you were going through withdrawals when you got arrested, and you said if it hadn't been for that guard, was it a guard that told you about Rikers? If it hadn't been for them, you would have been left to suffer.
Right, for sure. Actually, it was a inmate. He told me because I was going through withdrawals. I got locked up. When I got locked up for what I did, I locked up in New York, and so I'm in the cell. I'm going through it. I'm going through withdrawals. The guy's like, "Yo, what's up? You all right?" I was like, "Nah, I'm sick." And he's like, "You sick?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yo, tell the CO that you sick, and they'll send you to Rikers Island and give you methadone." I said, "Nah," because I'm from Mass. You know what I'm saying? So it's like in Mass, right? Back in 2006, right? In Mass, if you're going through withdrawals, they'll give you a Tylenol and some Benadryl and tell you to keep it going. just go ahead with yourself. Now they're giving you, they're giving out, some boxes and, they're doing it now en masse. But back in 06 in New York, when I first got locked up, they sent me to Rikers Island. And that was a blessing for me. That was like a sign to let me know that it's time to straighten up. You know what I'm saying? So what happened was they gave me methadone. They gave me 60 milligrams, and then they wigged me off. And that was the last time I touched heroin.
Wow.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You
just
were
want
talking,
you all to know that we
Renee,
all
you were
know
talking.
the,
Sorry,
I was just gonna say that I was just gonna say that you all can now say, and our audience can say that they know the top motivational speaker in Boston.
In Boston, yeah, that's right. This is
An award, a visionary award. for
And
being
Lydia is about to become a top when she's starting that route, right?
right.
So
Absolutely.
isn't that exciting that you can see? Yeah.
She's putting in a lot of work. I see it. She's putting in that work. I know. I can just tell by you can hear the passion in you that you're serious about what you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you wanna take this. This ain't it's not a joke. It's like we it's people's lives at stake, man, and we trying to save them. You know what I'm saying? And I see that in you. Like you came home and you went straight to it, and that's what's up. That's what's up. When I first came home, I didn't know I was going to, be a motivational speaker. And, I used to always talk to people and, my homies would be like, yo, or my friends, they'd be like, yo, man, won't you be a counselor or something? And I was like, nah, I'm all set. Won't you sponsor somebody or, be a mentor? I was like, nah, I'm all set. And then years later, now I came home on 2014 and boom, I became a speaker 2019. I touched it in 2019 and I was like, this is my purpose. This is what we need to do. I gotta share my story. Huh?
Then COVID hit.
Then COVID hit. And then everybody's on lockdown except for, essential workers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you went on quarantine karaoke, and then you built up a following. And look at you now.
Man. Wow, it's been like that. When that quarantine karaoke took me to another level. You can't do this we can't do it by ourselves. We need that help. We need. You can only go so
Lydia
far.
keeps talking about the support system. Yeah,
right.
Exactly, and she spoke about that earlier. Her support system is what kept her strong. And the thing is, like, we can only, take ourselves to a certain level. Once somebody else come along, they can take us to another level. We can, and
I didn't know how to begin what I'm doing now. I didn't even know where to start, who to talk to. But Ashley came along and she was like, well, hey, I do sell makeup. So we started with the makeup. And then she's like, well, you also, that I work for the reentry program or Freedom Fighting Missionaries. And I was like, oh. So then that's how all this is getting started, is because of Ashley.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah.
And Renee, can you, all three of you actually speak on this? So somebody had written, I'm not sure who it was, Julie, I think. They say, do the crime, do the time. But we're all, like you said, Renee, I know for a fact that I've broken the law, whether it be speed, no inspection sticker, from the littlest thing.
What's your last name?
He's gonna report us. He's gonna report us.
Julian, I can't cheer you on. Well, I guess I could cheer you on from prison. I just got to get tips from Lydia.
Yeah, but we're always, that's the thing. There's so many laws on the books. A lot of people don't understand that, but there's a lot of laws on the book. And
but people also know that they break the law and get away with it as well.
That's for sure.
I mean, there's both sides of that, right?
There's a conception that if you're getting caught for it, you deserve it more than if you're getting away with it. And I'm not really sure.
If you guys can weigh in on that, that would be great. On the do the crime, pay the time. Or how did she say it? Do the crime, do the time.
Something like,
I mean, of course, I robbed 14 banks, it's like, and I went in there just like this. So I did the crime. Of course, I admitted to all the banks. They caught me for one. and they showed me a picture of all the banks I went to, and I just accepted it. Like, boom, I'm ready to move on with my life. Yep, that's me. That's me. That's me. That's me. Yep, that's me. That's me. Yep, all the way down. And so but like you said, man, people do a little petty crime, don't get caught up. So I don't know about do the crime, you do the time, you do the crime, you do the time,
Well, I always question too, working with different people. We're not all doing the same time for the same crimes. We know this.
Right.
And we're not all getting caught or prosecuted in the same way, or even arrested, or, I mean, let's face it, blue eyes, blonde hair, maybe back in my younger days.
Well, I'm going to say something.
If I get pulled over, I'm not getting a ticket.
Right.
I've had
There's
2
also
tickets in my entire life, and
there
I'm
is
good.
privileges. Absolutely. There's privileges. So thank you for bringing that up. Not everybody actually is. It's not like there's actual justice to the point where everything is equal.
Right.
In fact, the American legal system prides itself on that. They call it discretion. The beat cop has discretion of what he brings to his superior. The DA always has discretion of whether she wants to prosecute or not, all the way down the line. Julian and Lydia have been on the other side of that, where they felt that there's decisions that have to be made everywhere down the line. Lydia even talked about how her victim's family made a choice, whereas they could have gone in a different direction. And then there's a jury system, or you have a judge weighing in to determine. Then there's sentencing. Then there's parole. So all the way along the line, you're having, dozens of peoples weigh in, and the outcomes are very, very, very different. And that's by that thing about discretion is the idea that there are soft factors, like a judge can have pity on one person because they think that defendant is somehow less culpable just emotionally. There are soft factors. And so it's not true that everyone who gets, like what Lydia was talking about, she had 10 years for this crime, but there were other people who had 30 years or life for a totally different crime. And in her mind, they were lesser offenses. And I'm going to say something controversial right now, which is that some of the worst things you can do to a human sometimes are not on the law books. You're not breaking a statute when you're a total awful human being who ruins somebody's life emotionally, or you abandon somebody who's so I don't want us to get high and mighty and think just because somebody broke a law that was on the books and that maybe you haven't, or you haven't done it where you've gotten caught or whatever. It's like, you're not a better person. That was one of the reasons why I started when I was a teenager, why I started doing prison work, was I really wanted to know, is somebody behind bars really more culpable as a human being than I am outside the bars? And honestly, I found out no, there could be any reversal. It could be me in there and them out here. And I say that wholeheartedly. I've seen it. I've seen some of the best people I've ever known.
A lot of good dudes in the joint.
Yeah.
Like a lot of, and I still talk to this day, like a lot, sometimes when people, they get caught up, don't get me wrong. There's some assholes and, in the joint that, that's like, like they deserve it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah.
Well, not everybody gets redemption, because not everybody makes amends or owns
right.
You're right. There's assholes. We get it. Renee actually has an asshole song.
Yeah, I have a whole song about assholes. I do. And Sandy asked me to record that, so I'm gonna.
You do really?
Yes, I'm gonna record that for Sandy because she was asking.
Oh man.
There are assholes.
Another part of this is what Julian was saying about how when they came to him, he was like, I'm just going to clean my slate. Yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. And then, like, you could have the guy over here who did 14 bank robberies, like, yep, nope, that's just the only one I did. And he will never own up to anymore, and they can't prove it. So now this guy's got a lesser sentence, even though, so the guy that was honest and open and ready to clean his life just ended up with more weight than the one that actually. So there's definitely major areas that can be worked on. I mean, we don't have to be, and Renee and I were talking before this, and you guys can let us know if you've experienced this, as we were saying that people cast you in a dark light based on the biggest mistake you ever made, right? So the rest of your life, they expect you to be defined by your biggest mistake. And it got me thinking about the Scarlet Letter. And Renee was like, yeah, imagine walking around every day and it was written on you what your biggest mistake was. And that's how people make those who have been in prison feel like every day they got to live for the rest of their life in this dark, this is the worst thing I ever did. Like that's their whole entire existence. And that's all we should know about them. And it's just,
And if you want to
not
think
great.
about fairness, which I always try to think about fairness, I take myself outside of the present legal system and I just sort of look down and if I could start from scratch, like one thing I want to say is somebody like that is they're giving up a lot. They're giving up time with their children for decades, or they're giving up their life if they're executed, or they're giving up so much and they're constantly being reminded of that thing that they did. And yet, how many people do atrocious things to one another and they're never put in prison, or they might not have violated an actual law on the books, and they don't have that. They can't grow, because in that situation, somebody's not going to grow because nobody is forcing them to look at it. It's like the puppy that pees on the carpet. No one is telling that puppy, look at your pee. So in some ways, I think that's why a lot of us have had experiences where someone who's actually been in prison or is currently in prison, we're saying, wow, I'm really impressed by this individual. This person's done a lot of work on themselves because they've really gone down deep and they're really a special individual. Whereas there's people running around and they're just, doing horrible things to one another all day and nobody's ever calling them out on it, or there's never any immediate consequence, if that makes any sense.
And you asked me, Renee, before the show started, or right at the beginning of the show, about why I'm so passionate about redemption and leaving that door open. Last year, so when I was younger, like I said, my parents' families were very dysfunctional. There was a lot of addiction and abuse. And my aunt and uncle, the youngest of the two, which were my age, pretty much grew up with us. And we lost both of them within a year time to drugs. And they never it's like they spent their entire adulthood not being able to outrun their childhood. And I feel like we can do better. We can do better, right? As a society. Not just, my uncle ended up in prison. So he was worse when he came out. Than he was going in, because he just never got the mental health care. He never could outrun that abusive childhood. He just never could. And that was a lot. And that really impacted me even more. That lit the fire under me to be like, guys, don't ever close the door completely. If it's not a totally abusive, toxic situation, but
people wrote me off, man.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, and I've been, I've been in and out of the system since a juvenile, I did 4 months in juvenile, then I did a 3-year state bid, right? And then I did 8.5 years, so it was like, the first 2 times it didn't work, it didn't work, but because I didn't have a plan, I didn't have no purpose. I didn't have no why, no reason, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, when I came home that third time, I was like, yeah, I came home with a plan. I know what I got to do,
And your situation, Lydia, was the opposite, right? You had no record, correct?
Yeah, I have no felonies on my record.
Nothing.
I think the only thing I had was when I was 16 years old, and I'm 40.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's such an off-sided situation. I mean, a life was lost. None of us are diminishing that and the
Right. Of course, yeah.
heaviness of that ever. And I think it's very important that people know that a life was lost. So your situation was different. But going into the crime, well, you didn't know that. You weren't even thinking that you were committing a crime, right? Like, because you're in that moment. And like Julian, you went in, like you said, did bank robbing. Somebody could have been hurt. I mean, who knows? So when you do, it's just the outcome where we have people doing the same crimes, but because of slightly different variations here or there, or who they got as a judge or a police, everything's changed for them. And compared to somebody else. And we know there's a lot of prejudice in the system, whether it be to women, to, you know, men. In the case of, if it's a man and a woman, the man is almost always the one arrested, even if it turns out the woman is the abuser. We have race, we have
economic factors, you know.
economic, sexuality. I mean, there's so many factors that people pick and choose to discriminate or treat differently, or the religion.
And we also have to understand too, not every country does it this way. And so when people say, okay, when you commit a crime, you should be punished. Well, punishment doesn't, it's actually a pretty modern and isolated concept that we're working with, where you take someone and put them in a cage with other people who, some of which were violent, some of which are non-violent. And you're just sort of like that's not like, there are so many other ways to do a quote unquote punishment. Many other ways. And so, of course, we have a whole civil system that works with economic things and trying to change things in different ways. But I always say, like, every case, of course, is unique. But if you have been a victim of a crime, which most of us have been, the crimes vary, but, you know, what do you want to see happen? Does it make you feel better that this person is spending, 40 years inside of a box being being uncomfortable and in danger and that kind of stuff? Maybe your answer is yes. But a lot of the times when I used to work a lot with victims, when I was working with prisoners, I was always working with victims. Right. And most victims that I worked with, we have a whole, in Atlanta, we had a whole organization run by victims who wanted to, work through this. And like, it was very rare that you would meet someone who said, oh yeah, it makes me feel better that this person's, in a box, or this person's going to get executed, which is what I was like working with death row prisoners. It doesn't bring the person back. And then, it sort of truncates another life. It's almost like you're adding tragedy to tragedy. And then what about the family members of the defendant or the perpetrator or the prisoner? You're seeing these kids getting ripped away from their parents. Who's winning, and what did the kid do? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And like I said, there are other countries that have ways where families can be more involved. And I'm not talking about a Ted Bundy. I think when we think prisoner, the first thing that we think about is Hollywood. This is a serial killer who's going to go and do a bunch of that or whatever. That's such a small percentage, and that's different. I don't want those people ever on the street. I don't want to live next to Ted Bundy. And honestly, I don't care what you do with Ted Bundy, because I don't want anything to do with them. But the vast majority of people who have been in prison are not Ted Bundy. A lot of times they've done things where they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it could have been you in their situation. So how are we helping
Or it's all
anybody?
they knew. Like,
or it's all they knew, or they were a victim too. Yeah.
He didn't have a lot of options. This is what he grew up watching.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like, that's all I knew. Like, everything that happened around my neighborhood, Roxbury, anything happened, Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, that's all I knew. And it was like, I didn't go outside the hood, because everything happened either in front of my house, in my hallway, or around the corner in the backyard. Like, anything from drug selling to people getting high, people getting shot at, people getting beat up, and you name it. It all happened on that little side street, my little side street where I grew up at. And so I was born into it,
Can you guys address something Renee just brought up, was the children? So you both have kids. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like, and how the mending of those relationships are like? In your case, Lydia, you were able to keep connected through it all, which is amazing that you had that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Co-parenting and your parents. I mean, it's just amazing. So if you guys could talk on that, that'd be great.
It was also co-parenting and having that relationship with my daughter, phone calls and visits. In CCIW, that prison, I can talk about all kinds of bad things about that prison, but there are a lot of good things about that place too. The churches are involved. A lot of churches are involved with that prison. There was One Day with God. I got to spend the whole day with my daughter. There was Match program. There was a Mother Read program, and they do have a lot of things that you can involve your child with. So I did.
What was that, state or federal?
State, NCCIW. Okay. Yeah.
That
Yeah,
really
so
makes a
I've
difference,
seen a
and
lot
that's
of that.
really good. I mean, talking about someone who's in prison, talking about their family, whether it be their parents who are getting elderly and they're having to struggle because they don't have their child at home, or it's the children who don't. All of that should be avoided as much as is possible. So the idea of prison is that you're punishing someone and that you're protecting society, but the vast majority of prisoners who are in there are not a threat to society. Okay. And we can tell that because we have a calendar of when they're going to leave the prison. And the legal fiction is that they're one person that day. And then overnight, suddenly they're safe to be in society. I mean, that's just
If you're
ridiculous.
leaving tomorrow, you're a whole new person.
You're a whole new person, but you deserve prison today because you're a threat to society
Right.
today, but you're not a threat to us tomorrow. And so it doesn't make any logical sense at all. But why is it that we shouldn't, when you're talking about the families of, first of all, victims and then also prisoners, these are people who did not ask for this. They had no culpability at all. And why should they be punished if their parent or their child or their sibling is not a threat to society? And if there's other ways that they can pay their dues and be punished? There's a lot of ways that you can do that, and you have to think outside of the box quite literally. You don't have the answer isn't always Cool Hand Luke with the box. That's not always the answer. Right. It is the answer for Ted Bundy. Sayonara Ted. I'm glad he's gone. Okay, that's like 0.0000. That's the Hollywood crazy
We know exactly
thing.
how Renee feels about Ted Bundy.
I am done with you, Ted, and the Dahmer guy and Gacy. I don't
Julian,
care.
are you
Oh yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, that's
okay, so you were in federal. Lydia was in state.
I was in state too. I did state. Yeah, I did state and federal.
What was did you have any relationship with your daughter before? I don't know. You don't have to talk
man.
if you don't want, but I know you're close now.
So
I'm just wondering what the prisons do.
So the prison ain't you just get a normal visit. That's it. But I lost my train of thought. The relationship with my daughter, right? She didn't come see me the whole time, like, because I was so far away, and plus my child's mother, she was like, man, I ain't coming up there to, I'm not coming away to, Ohio. She in Mass, Ohio, and they have me all over the place, Canaan, Pennsylvania, Philly. So, but one thing she did do was, keep the connection with me, talking to her over the phone, as those years went by, and sending me pictures, and we're writing back and forth, and that was the connection we had. So when I came home after being out of life for 8.5 years, she was 13 when I came home, and it was like I had to ease my way in. I couldn't just be like like, yo, do this, and like a father figure, like bark on her and yo, don't do this and don't do that. But I eased my way in by spending time with her, spending time and
improving your life. I mean,
and changing my life, showing her she wasn't really she didn't really understand back then when I first came home, and she didn't really know until she got of age, and I started to just tell her my story, and she was like, wow, but our relationship right now is amazing, it's amazing. She's 21 right now, and she's
Hope is there, everybody. You're hearing it.
Beautiful.
Hope is there.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. And we had a question from the audience. Stephen wanted to know, and I think you touched on this a little bit, and maybe do a little summary again. Did either one of you have access to any rehabilitation programs in prison, higher education, therapy?
Oh yeah. Man, that's how I worked on myself. Like, that's how I started loving myself by, I went and got my GED. I got, I took I got my apprenticeship in culinary arts. I took drug programs, anger management programs, whatever programs that crochet, whatever they had, whatever was going on.
Oh, right? I'm bringing my crochet hook when I come visit.
Yeah, I got certificates. Let me see if I can find it through here. Right? But programs, they have things for you to better yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're just gonna have to want it for yourself. Some people just come in the joint and they be like, yeah, I'm just bidding, man. I'm just bidding. Oh, you know, they'd be like, yo, I got another one in me. Like, what? You in here, you already talk about you got another one in you when you get out. So, but
I've had people say to me before that they feel they'd rather be in prison because they have a home, that's their family, they have meals, there's no like outside forces for responsibility. Like for them and their mindset, it's better than when they're outside.
yeah,
And that's so sad because
it
that
is.
is
But
I've seen people come back in.
It's real.
Yeah. I seen somebody come back in and I was like, what are you doing back? And she came up to me, she goes, you know what, Lydia, I'm gonna die out there. I'm safe in here, because she was a drug addict and she was gonna die on the street. So she was like, I'm safer in prison. You know, it's like, and I tried to tell the girls, and they were all like, I'm stressed out. And I'm like, what are you stressing about? We ain't got no bills to pay. We ain't got no kids to take care of. We ain't got nothing to do in here, but do you? You know, like, why are you stressed out in here?
Right, you're getting fed. You know, you get a shower. You know, you can, you know, have some rec, talk trash to the girl. I feel as though female prisons, though, they're more loving. You know
that's what Lydia said. That's what Lydia said. Yeah,
it's more like you know, that's what I feel like. You know, females. You know, y'all. You know, it's more.
Julian, I say that a lot on my lives, and I'm always like, they think women is like, they think it's like, oh, did y'all have a lot of gangs and shanks? And I'm like, no, women's prisons not like the men's prisons. We're not separated by anything. I said, we don't have gangs, we form families. So I left a lot of family in there. I left sisters and state moms and state uncles and state grandmas, and I had state family in there. So we had a family in there.
See, it ain't like that it ain't like that in the men. You got gangs, you got you know, you got cities like in the feds is very geographical, right? It's, you know, Boston is with Boston, North Carolina stay with North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how it is. Like Philly, New York, they call it cars, right? So, you know, each state and city got their own car. And man, like, it's just, you can't let your guard down because if somebody think you're weak, they'll try you. You know what I'm saying?
So that's the feeling I got while talking to Lydia, was the difference being, if you're a man, you can't show weakness in prison because they're going to go for you. If you're a woman and you show weakness in prison, they're going to lift you up.
They're going to lift you up. What's that show? What's the name of that show? 60 days in.
Yeah, 60 days in. I've seen it, yeah.
Man, the female side, they're so loving. You know, they're so loving, and, you know, they're so welcoming.
Julian, this is why women should rule the world.
Yes, you see, this is why women know what they're doing. I think women have a better understanding of fairness.
I'm just kidding. I think it's good if we're equally, we can rule the world. There's things that I need my Julian smiles every day. I like to tease him because I'm always telling him I don't know how he landed his beautiful partner because but I'm really joking. He knows I'm joking, but it cracks me up.
Yeah, I know. She always say something about that.
It's important to have like people who support you. I mean, so if you want to talk about, you know, that keeps you totally motivated.
For sure. I said to myself when I came home, I said, listen, I got to change my surroundings. I got to change, you know, who I deal with. I can't hang around the same people.
Right.
Because I'm going to end up doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I was like, yo, I got to move outside the hood. I ain't moved away from Boston, but I just moved outside the hood.
Right.
You know, to give myself a better opportunity to, you know, because I already know this here. I already know that, you know, like I got to try something different.
Left, right?
Huh?
Like you had never been outside of your area. Like you had never.
Nah. So once I started meeting different people that you know, heading the same way I'm going or doing better than me, like my life changed. Like I seen one of my old friends. Just Sunday. I went out to a basketball tournament, right? And I seen one of my friends. Man, I ain't seen this dude in since the 90s, right? And when he seen me, I was like, "What's up, man?" He's like, "Hey, what's up?" I said, "You know who I am?" He's like, "Nah." He's like, I said, "It's Juice, man." That's what they call me, Juice. It's Juice, man. And he looked, and he couldn't believe he seen me. Like, he was like, "For real, Juice?" Oh my! Like, blew his mind. He was like, "Man, this is the best ever right here. Like, you cleaned up nice, man. You cleaned up nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's just that's more confirmation of me to stay on the right track. You know what I'm saying?
I love that. And that is what people miss if they just cut people out.
Right.
How blown away he was, and what an asset you are in somebody's life now.
Yeah.
If they had just cut you off, people that just cut you off. And I get it.
And he could have, because I was, like, he could have cut me off, but because I was getting high and, I was running the streets and, doing craziness. But he always, he was a good friend, and then he seen me. He ain't seen me in years, because he just finished doing time. He just came home like 2 years ago from just doing like 15. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, seeing me, it just blew his mind. It blew his mind. Like, oh my God.
And that's another thing that people don't understand is, like, so I like directly attached to me, I know one person who went to prison, like directly involved in my life, right?
Yeah.
So there are people like you growing up in the projects who, dozens probably, right? Friends, family.
Oh yeah.
And so it's so hard when I see somebody who comes from my background being judgmental.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you have no clue. We don't know what their life was.
Exactly.
Like, how can you judge somebody that comes? We expect people to rise to a level they don't even know exists.
Exactly. That's really well put. Yeah.
How do we?
Yeah, very well put.
Look, I brought this out, right?
Yes,
this is my paperwork right here, right? Could you see that?
Yep.
This is my paper. This is all my paperwork, from transcripts, all my cases, people telling on me. If I was to hand this to somebody, and then they won't even know who the real me is if I hand them this paperwork. They'd be like, "Oh no, I don't want to be around this criminal."
It's literally like the old Julian.
Right. But they don't know, though. Like, they don't know until they meet. Even when I was getting high, like, even when I was, in the streets getting high, and I was still a cool guy, respectful, and just, laughing, smiling all the time. Like, I got a couple of pictures that when I back in the 90s when I was messing around, I got my pants pulled up to my chest, and just.
I'm gonna have to bug your girlfriend for those. Like, I need some blackmail. Can you guys talk a little bit about? We had a question. Somebody said, a couple people said they're proud of you guys.
Thank you.
And somebody said, how did you meet different people to get out of the hood? But maybe you could both speak on how, when you got out, what's some of the few things that you changed, major or little, to improve your chances of succeeding?
I know I was in mental health treatment the whole time, and I still am. I still am mental health treatment right now. And the number one thing that they've always told me is you got to change your people, places, and things. And I've heard that's also being said in like substance abuse classes. You have to change people, places, and things. And when I lived in Raleigh, I was a bartender, and I was out there, and being wild and crazy. And that's what got me in trouble. Like, I was, moving too much. I needed to move out to the country and sit my ass down and calm down. And so I moved out of the city, and I don't hang out with anybody that I used to hang out with anymore. If that, I feel like you don't care that I go to jail. You're not going to stay in contact with me. So why should I hang out with you? You're not going to be there if I get locked up. You don't care about my safety or me succeeding and finishing parole. And so if you're going to jeopardize any of that, I can't hang out with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how long do you have, Lydia? I think we talked about this last time. How long are you on parole?
12 months. I get off January.
Ah, you're more than halfway there.
Yeah.
You go, girl.
Yes.
Yeah,
and I'm doing so good. My parole officer told me the other day that I was her best client. Like, she was like, I don't have any restrictions. I've never had any restriction. Like, she's like so proud of me.
You know why? Because you doing what you're supposed to do. You in your lane. See, that's the thing, right? A lot of people come home, man. They be like, man, my PO, my parole officer's an asshole, blah, 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 blah. And, but you don't want to go get you a job, or you don't want to just do what they tell you to do. Like, and they'll stop backing up from you even more. Like, I was on probation, federal probation for 3 years. I had to report like 3 times a week for urine, right? And I just was working, doing my thing. Went from 3 times a week to 3 times a month to 3 times every 4 months. You know what I'm saying? So it was like I was doing what I was doing. Then it got to a point where they don't even want a urine from me, because I was doing what I was supposed to do. Like, as far as for me, not for them, for me. You know what I'm saying? Doing the right thing, like, working.
I think that's huge.
All the qualifications that, that they want you to do, make it happen. Just do it. Just get you a job. Stay out of trouble. That's all they want you to do, is get you a job, stay out of trouble, and do something with your life. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it goes back to what we were saying about people. Not everybody hits that wall where they realize, in order to grow and change, it's not just going to happen. It's not magic in your life. You have to put work into it, and you have to accept responsibility, even if it's painful, even if you're not sure you were totally to blame. If you don't start from a place of, how did I allow this to happen to me? What different things could I have done up to that point that would have led me a different way? But some people can't. They just cannot do that. They cannot. They just double.
And I've been on the other side too, where when I caught my state, before I caught my first state bid, they had me on probation with a suspended sentence. I was on that side where, man, I ain't going to my probation. I want to smoke. You know what I'm saying? I ain't getting no job. Like, I've been on that side too. But I was young. I ain't know any better. And like, I was waking up every day just for nothing, like just looking for the day to bring me something, hoping something happened. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's just gonna be magic. But
it's
not just prisoners; it's also people that were in prison and come up. But even every day, I see a lot of people struggle. Now, life throws us curveballs. I'm not gonna lie. I've had some major struggles in my life, health, family, stuff like that. But my dad, I was raised in a home where we were taught, if we're having a struggle, there's something we need to learn. So we best immerse ourselves in that struggle until we figure it out. So we weren't allowed to just escape the struggle. Like, my dad taught us to face the
hold
wave,
on. I'm sorry. Bring that back again. If there was a struggle, oh man.
If we were having a struggle in our life, I've talked about this before with Renee. She always is like, that's
some jewels right there.
Yeah, I know.
That is some jewels right there.
She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing.
Let me write that down.
Yeah.
So if you're struggling, like, literally, there are people out there who are struggling constantly their entire life, and you say to yourself, yes, there are outside forces. Yes, there are things you can't change. Yes, there are things health, you can only do so much. You can only put in so much. If you get an illness, you get an
Right.
illness. Like we
Right.
didn't all do something wrong to get an illness or have a disability or what have you. Or religion, skin color, whatever causes us to have any type of struggle or extra burden. But my dad always said, if you're facing a struggle, there is a lesson to be learned. So you put your head to the wind and you fight and you keep fighting until you figure it out and you learn and you educate yourself. And we were not allowed to blame. Even if it had nothing to do with us, we were not allowed to blame because that was our lesson to learn.
Yeah, I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use that. I stole that from you.
Then stole it.
That from you.
I won't arrest you.
Nah, you might hear it on one of my reels or something.
Yes. Bring it
That while I'm speaking, I'm telling you,
I love that.
I like that.
I love that. Yeah.
You know,
And
it's
Trilby
true,
said,
though.
do you want to
fight their whole life, and it's like maybe there's something different you're supposed to be
Right.
doing.
Yeah.
Like I believe we have a purpose. I was raised to think we have a purpose. I am in my 50s. I still don't know what my total purpose is, but I also
But you looking for it though. That's the thing.
right. I continue to learn. I'm not going to stop growing. I'm not going to stop growing.
Yes.
Renee was going to read some of the comments, I think.
Yeah, Trilby Post said, everyone is entitled to a chance. My son was in prison. He now owns 3 very healthy businesses. So that reminds me of both of you guys who are entrepreneurial spirits as well.
That sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it. If you want better, you do better.
Yep. I love that too.
That's true.
That's a good shirt.
That is a good shirt. Yeah, it is. I know we took you guys over the time, but I was thinking it might be a cool way to end the show if Lydia and Julian, we went full circle and you guys talked a little bit about redemption and what redemption means to you, whether it's prison or your own story, but just in general. When we started the program, MM talked about why redemption is so important to her. So I think it might be nice to hear from, I'm curious. Lydia, let's start with you and we'll end with Julian.
Redemption. Definitely proving myself that I can do it. I want to make my friend proud of me. I'm definitely, like I've said before, taking a negative thing that happened and turning it into a positive, changing my whole being. Like nobody will know this new Lydia. I want to be a new and improved Lydia. And just because I was in prison for 10 years, the stigma shouldn't be on me, and I want to change that stigma. I want to show people that you can come out of prison and do great. You don't have to return and go back and return and recidivism. It's terrible. I've seen it myself, but I want to show people that just because you come out of prison doesn't mean you're a violent criminal. And just because I have a murder charge, that doesn't define who I am, though. So I'm going to prove all these people wrong.
Love it.
I love that. Julia?
Well, my thing is this, right? I look at it like somebody to just be somewhere and they're talking to somebody and they're like, man, do you know Julian? He saved my life, man, by sharing his story. He made me, he helped me get through a rough time. Like that's the type of effect that I want to have in the world. And that's what I'm doing right now. So in order for me to do that, I got to continue on to work on me, work on myself, continue to love myself so I can show love to others, to show that, I'm a rejuvenated man. This was where I was at, and this is where I am now. Mm-hmm. And we're all the same. Like I speak to people at rehabs, recoveries, schools, corporations, and I just want to be that, I just want to be that light in their darkness. Mm-hmm. I want to be that light in their darkness and just leave a legacy for my daughter,
Beautiful.
And
Yeah, you've definitely done that. I promise
Yeah.
you've definitely already done that.
Like
Yeah.
last year, we did our first spam month, which was Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. We did a whole campaign on it. And all the work we put into it and many, many performances and people joined in and gave their testimonies. We had panels
Yeah.
of people, so many people involved that came out and helped. And we received a message that somebody had thought twice, like they were going to hurt themselves and they didn't because they were watching our stuff. And that was it for us. Like it didn't matter.
That's
All those hours meant nothing to us if just
Right.
that 1 minute
That's right.
helped one person.
and that's
That's
the
what it's
beauty.
about.
That is so beautiful. Like it's just I'm sorry. I know we ran a little time, but this is another testimony. I went and spoke at a school, like over 500 kids, right? And after I spoke, this little young lady she come up to me. She said, "Thank you so much for sharing your story because I was thinking about killing myself yesterday, and if I would have did that, I wouldn't have been here to hear your story. Like you made me look at life different now, and I appreciate you." And then she sent me a message on Instagram after that, thanking me again, and just and it was just like
That's
that's
so great.
all that
It
counts.
makes all
Out of
the
that
work worth
500,
it,
that's
don't it?
just that one right there. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
all
That's
worth
it.
it.
You
Yeah.
know, it's all worth it.
That's happened to me too. That
Yeah.
because you've been watching my lives, and I've had so many people write me. This is what I'm here. They're like, hey, somebody wrote me and said, hey, my son gave me his keys to his car last night because he was drinking, didn't want to drink and drive because he watched your live. I was like, that's it for me. I've had people that are
Yes,
facing 45 years in prison. Like these people are contacting me looking for advice and help, and just that makes me feel so good. I know what you're talking about, Julian. I know that feeling.
And that's what keeps me going. That right there, like a majority of the speaking engagements I've done, I didn't get paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Just out of the kindness of my heart. Like I'm in the DYS system right now. Like the Department of Youth Services. Like I'm in there right now, going back and forth, trying, speaking and trying to get to them because that's where it started at with me.
Awesome.
But
Yeah, it's really great. It's really, really great what both of you are doing.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we'll have you guys back again because we didn't get to have Ashley.
Well, MM has some ideas. Yeah. Do you want to, let's lead that. Let's MM, if you could just talk about maybe the next step here that we might want to be including Ashley in for the audience to know.
Well, one of the things is we got a message. Somebody suggested a chat in our Facebook group for prison reform and the discussion. And we're not going to do it in the group because we've been having some trouble with the in-chat groups and spamming and scammers getting in there. So we're just going to set up, but we are going to set one up. It's going to be probably in Messenger, probably to start because that's the easiest.
Yep.
So if anybody would like to be in that group, just message any of us and we'll get you in there. But
we'll hook everyone together. That's right. And then what do we have planned for spam? I know you're already thinking about spam in September, which is Suicide Prevention Month.
Hopefully by the end of next week we'll have it pulled together and I got to reach out to some other people that were involved last year. We're doing it a little different this year.
Oh, right. Lydia's in. We got Lydia
in. I've been
Alana
down that
said
road.
she's in, and Alana said she wants
been down
in.
that road. I've
Let's
been down that road.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. I don't think you can see my shirt. Wait, hold up.
Where focus goes, energy flows. That's
right.
True. That's true. Yeah.
The difference this year is last year we focused on a lot of actual testimonies from people who had tried to kill themselves or gotten to that edge where they almost jumped and then didn't. So we listened to that. And then we had a lot of performances and stuff where people gave hope and strength, and we raised money for NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Health. And this year we're going to focus on hope and the stories of after, like you, Julian, coming out of prison and boom, look at your life. It's amazing, right? From all your work. So we're going to look at the hope after instead of focusing on the act itself and those moments, the testimony of those moments, but rather the joy that can come if you can push through. So definitely hit me up. Anybody that wants to help or be on or has an idea or something they want to do.
Absolutely.
We do it for the whole month of September, just randomly throughout the month. And of course, most of our shows will talk about it or bring up the link for people to donate if they want to donate. And we encourage people to message us and let us know if it's helped them. And that's how we make changes too. Like we had a lot of people that were really helped last year, but we also had a few people that were like, this is heavy. It's a lot to come into for the month, right? So that's why we want to focus more on the hope side this year. So
I think that's a
feedback
great,
is everything.
Yeah, hope is a really, really powerful theme. So, and then I wanted, Ilana said, can I seriously take a moment and thank Julian and Lydia? They are making the world a better place every day. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, and
You're so
Alana
welcome.
knows because Alana was a prosecutor and a public defender.
Right, exactly.
Oh, wow.
She's been on both sides of that.
Yeah,
Hey, before we go, right? I remember about four months ago, I went to the federal prison where I was incarcerated at. I went back to speak, right? But I was with two prosecutors, my old probation officer, and two other civilians, and it was 8 inmates, right? And it was the program was called Restorative Justice Program, right? We stayed in there for two days, not overnight, for 9 hours each, right? And man, when I tell you, we sat in a circle, and one of the exercises we did was we had 20 minutes to write a apology letter or a forgiveness letter, right? And we had 20 minutes to write it to whoever. And after the 20 minutes was up, you had your chance to share it if you want to share it, you know. And that everybody shared that day, right? And it was so powerful that almost the whole room was crying. Like, that's how powerful it was, you know. Just people spilling out, and it was sacred, man, and we kept it within each other. But it was a beautiful moment, man. It was a beautiful. I just wanted to share that with y'all.
That is beautiful. I love
I was
that.
absorbing it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I
just had to share. I had to share with y'all.
Thank you.
Because you said prosecutor, but you know, so that you know, it triggered like
right
prosecutors in that circle, man, and it was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah.
And the other thing that's going to be coming up is Ashley, who couldn't make it tonight. She'll be coming on at some point. And of course, Julian and Lydia will be back. But
listen, whenever y'all call me up, I'm here.
She's going to link up Julian to go in on one of her talks at the
they're gonna all join up.
She said she want to talk to. She got to talk to a boss first. After she finished talking to a boss, we see.
But
we
just
can
the
do
fact
something.
that you're networking is great.
It just happened that quick. Like you put us in a conversation, and it just was like boom.
Oh, maybe. And guess what? I have a meeting with her boss next Wednesday morning.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, this is great.
Yeah,
teamwork makes
it all worth it. Because like, one of the goals of Journeys was to make change, not just.
Right.
We want to hear people's journeys in a way that will help somebody else, whether it's fun or something heavy, whatever end, because people are in both areas, right? So just to see the networking, it fills us because
this is what it's about.
That's what we wanted it about.
That's what it's about. Like it's the more people you meet, like
you need to stay connected.
It's just I'm a people's person. I love meeting people. You know, like real recognize real. Believe me,
that's right.
You know? Especially when you can connect with somebody when you know the first 2 minutes with me. Your first 2-3 minutes, I can connect and see if you about bull crap or you had it the same way I'm going. And, and that's how I feel when I connected with all y'all. Like that's why I'm so comfortable. Like I'm comfortable talking
That's
to y'all.
why it took me 3 years to pull him to the dark side of him.
Yeah,
Because he was like,
got him. You
this
finally
woman,
got him.
3 years, right?
I don't know about her. Took me 3 years, guys. 3 years.
I love that.
3 years.
Totally
But look, you made it happen. You made it happen. You reached out, and I was like, "Oh, let's go."
She's a great connector. She's always she arranges and organizes everything, and she sees. It's like, you must be amazing at seating people at weddings, because over here, this person sits here, because she has a knack for bringing people together, and that's how we get change. We can't do it in isolation. We have to do it with one another, because we all have weaknesses and powers, and so it's about finding other people who can strengthen our powers and strengthen our weaknesses to get to a power, and that's
also
what we do.
And also be willing to ask for help, like that's real important. A lot of times, man, we'd be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
Ask for, you know what I'm saying?
That's hard.
It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's
Yes.
okay to be uncomfortable.
Yes.
Be uncomfortable.
That's how you grow.
Guys, it's okay to be uncomfortable. Yeah.
That's how you grow.
Yep. Exactly. Those are the moments that you can reflect on and grow. And I've said this a million times, as Renee can attest, that same feeling of nervousness, the feeling in your gut that you're like, oh, I'm so scared, I'm nervous, is the same exact feeling physically that you get when you're excited about something.
So just transform the label. Just change the label.
Flip the switch. Flip the switch. Yeah.
There you go.
Which is what you guys did with your lives, right? And
Absolutely.
your view and how you've come out on the other side.
But
can you guys both tell people how they can reach you? And
how can they follow you? Julian, how can people follow you?
So on Instagram, my Instagram and TikTok is Julian Motive 02. All one word, JULIAN MOTIVE 02. All one word. And on Facebook is my name, Julian Miller.
Absolutely. And then Lydia, and we have that also in the description. So if anyone wants to double check that. And then Lydia, what about you?
Yeah, my Facebook is Lydia Mills. My TikTok is Lydia Mills 10, and my Instagram is Lydia Mills 392.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming out. And we had a big crowd again, so everyone wants to talk about these things. MM, they're going to be seeing another show, right?
Them back on. Yeah, we're coming on. And also, I'd like to tell the people that are watching and our replay squad, if they have any ideas for future shows or things they'd like to see addressed, or any guests, these ones or others that they want to talk more about or hear more from, let us know. Or suggestions, or if there's a topic they want to cover, just hit us up, because that's what it's about. It's about networking and community and realizing that there is goodness and kindness and there is room for change, and that it's okay to be uncomfortable.
It's okay to be uncomfortable. That's right. All right, we're going to keep the conversations going. Thank you, Lydia Mills. Thank you, Julian Juice Miller. And of course, MM Farwell, your executive producer, for putting this all together. Amazing job. And thank you to our audience, both on the replay and the live. So keep tuning in to Cosmos Creative Television. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Bye, y'all.